Yeah, so anti-ransomware, I think the challenge with this as a market is nearly every cybersecurity market has some element of anti-ransomware discussion. You know, it's such an important topic. It's still incredibly prevalent. You know, here in the UK, recently we've had a number of outages of large retail firms and a whole host of problems that have been very public as a result of ransomware. And nearly every single cybersecurity vendor says, yes, we do anti-ransomware. But there are also a number of specific vendors that are focusing on anti-ransomware either as their only proposition. So the likes of Halcyon have been around for quite a while, and their focus is primarily anti-ransomware. That's the main focus for them. And the same with companies like Bullwall. So their main focus is anti-ransomware. They're not covering all of the other sort of endpoint protection, antivirus capabilities. They're often an add-on to existing tools. So that's why we picked on this. The key sort of piece that we're looking at, the green and black stripe ones, is actually the ransomware recovery component, because as Rob quite rightly said, you can't necessarily prevent ransomware. You need to be able to respond very quickly. So a lot of the products here are focusing on not only protection, but also immediate response and recovery of data. So it's an interesting market. There are quite a few new vendors arriving. There's some vendors that have sort of pivoted from other capabilities. So Morphosec has been doing what they call moving target defense for quite some time, which is an endpoint product trying to prevent exploits. But again, they sort of pivoted to be a more anti-ransomware focus. Threat Locker, on the other hand, is more an application control allow listing, but again has got a focus on anti-ransomware, or a product offering that's focusing on anti-ransomware. And Bullwall is an interesting one because it's I think it's the only one in the pyramid that isn't endpoint based. It's all focused on containment and runs on the network, looking for signs of ransomware. So it's an interesting market. It's one that's dynamically changing. A lot of the vendors are sort of fairly new and evolving, and will continue to get a lot of interest because ransomware is still a huge problem. So it's an interesting market to analyze and review, and therefore, seem the obvious choice for a pyramid.
Thanks, Mark. One question. In our previous life, if you were bottom left or bottom of anything, you were always thought of as bad and avoid. But here we have Armed Cyber as a Sparks. What makes them interesting?
I think it's the techniques they're using, and they're combining both the sort of detection and prevention capabilities as well as recovery. So they look at misuse of living off the land tools, detecting and blocking those, and as well as protecting the data. So they're an interesting company, relatively new, received some quite good backing from well-known names. So yeah, they have the potential to take off, and they're using sort of the best of all the different techniques from several other vendors. So yeah, they're interesting to watch.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's really important to note is if you're on the pyramid, it means you're an interesting vendor. These are new markets, markets where nobody's been raiding them, or they haven't been rated in a very long time and there's no current information. And as such, if you're here, you're important. And it doesn't matter if you're top left, bottom right, mid center, anybody on the pyramid is a vendor you should be evaluating if you're a CIO or a CISO.